So Nexus makes its debut. You shock the world. I remember watching that live too, and I think up till that point, for me, that was like the coolest debut I had ever seen watching live. What was going through your guys' minds like right before you head out there?
Well, we didn't really know what to expect, you know. So NXT just ended, so we all went back to NXT FCW at the time, and we were just kind of hanging around. We're like, "Oh, are we gonna go to TV next week, or what's going on?" And this was in Miami, and we were all living in Tampa at the time, so we all drove down. We didn't have any guidance. They didn't tell us what to do, but you know, you always have your gear with you just in case.
Mhm.
And Vince pulls us into this office, and he lays out this plan. And we all kind of like look at each other and we're like, oh, yeah, okay, you're the boss. If this is what you want, this is what we'll do. And usually in wrestling, Dr. Tom used to say this always, what's old is new and what's new is old, right? So you can always go revisit a storyline or watch something back and get some ideas from it. But there was nothing to pull from this. You know, like we were like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. You know, maybe some NWO skits or
Right.
maybe uh, some skits similar to that, but like nothing to that extent. So we all just, you know, I don't know what the other guys were thinking, but by the looks on their faces, everyone was just like, yeah, let's just go with it. Let's just do what we've been told. And yeah, luckily for us, it turned out great.
Absolutely. I remember just everything kind of at that time in WWE just seemed formulaic. Like you had your things that popped off every once in a while, but it was something we hadn't seen for like years.
Yeah, and, you know, and it was exciting because like everywhere we went, people brought that up. You know, like there are crew guys that work for WWE that you'll never see backstage. The guys setting up the rigs and the stages and the camera guys and the, you know, the seamstresses and some of those people have been there for 30 years or maybe even more, right? So they've seen it all. Uh, you know, the guys that set up the stages, they usually sleep during the show and they all take down the SmackDown set and drive to the next town, like real carny style, like circus,
That's
right?
awesome.
I remember
Yeah.
when we're doing some of the Nexus stuff, those guys, you know, usually they'd sleep on the bus while the show is on, and all of them would come out and like stand in gorilla and watch the whatever we were doing, and then when anything else came on, they would go back to sleep. So, you know, I started talking to some of these guys, and it was really cool. I was like, wow, if these guys appreciate it so much, I'm sure like fans, although a lot of people were hating us at the time because we were just
Mhm.
playing the bad guys. But you know, I was like, wow, if it has impact on people like this who have seen it all, like I'm pretty sure people will love this. So, you know, it was a very short run, but like I think we made the best of it. I mean, we
Yeah.
could have probably done a lot of things very different, but you know, it's all in the past now. That's how it played out.
What was the reaction like when you got to the back that first night? Were those same crew guys were like, wow, and like were people backstage kind of like in awe?
Man, that's a good question. I haven't even thought about that in such a long time. I don't really recall when we got to the back. I just remember thinking, I was like, all right, cool, we're back on TV. So where
Yeah.
do we travel to next week?
No, I mean for sure. I think what's cool that I've heard you say and like other Next members is that I guess you guys found out an hour beforehand that this was even happening. So when you guys are out there shouting to each other and stuff, destroy this, throw this, like that was real for lack of, a better term, right? That was pretty much like you guys were really just destroying things, whatever other than the cameras, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, he told Vince goes destroy everything. He goes, if you want to tear the security guy's suit, I'll pay for it. Don't worry. Do this, I'll pay for it. Like I was like, all right, this is cool. Like, you know, I was like, hey, can you put some you know, those garden scissors? I was like, can you put those under the ring? I want to try and chop the ropes. But I was like, I tried it during the day, and I was like, no, that's definitely not gonna work. But we didn't really know like what we were gonna do. We just they were like just destroy everything. So like a lot of that stuff we just came up with on the spot, and
On
like
the
lucky
spot,
for us,
right?
it kind of like turned out good.
Yeah, it did. It was a shocking.
Except for Daniel Bryan, it didn't turn out that good for him.
I know, I was watching it again last night, and obviously that part is cut out of the one that like WWE
Oh no
posted.
way.
Yeah, yeah, that's cut, and it's really good cut too. I almost forgot about it until I was like, wait a second, like, and then I watched another one of someone else uploading the real thing, and you see it looks brutal. It does.
Interesting, interesting. I gotta go watch. Like,
Yeah.
and it's so funny too because whenever I travel, I go to Australia a lot, and that was like what, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids that are in their 20s now, they were like 12, 13 when that happened. So it was a big impact on their life. Like imagine what you went through when you went through puberty or like middle school, like those things stick with you for life.
They do.
So it's funny, usually when someone recognizes me or talks about that, I know exactly their age, right? Because they were during
Yeah.
when that happened, they were that age. But like lately, like these little kids have been coming up to me, like, and I was like, how old are you? He was like 8 or 9. I was like, well, this happened like 10 years ago. Like, and I forget, like, we have the network and we have YouTube and all these things.
Right.
When I was young, there's nothing to reference on YouTube, and like these kids just go back and watch everything. It's so cool.
No, it's out there forever, really. And yeah, I remember I had like the Nexus shirt I did. And I think it was like high school, and people who aren't wrestling fans were like, what is that giant yellow and like
Oh, we had to wear those armbands everywhere, like even on the plane and the gym, like
wow.
we had to wear it everywhere. Like Vince was like, wear this everywhere, and people, it's going to be a conversation starter, and this is how you get into that stuff, I think Ryback asked him, he's like, if people ask us, what do we do? What do we tell them? And I'll never forget Vince's answer. He just looked at us all. He goes, if somebody asks you what you do or who you are, you just say, I put smiles on people's faces. And that stuck with me for forever.
That is hilarious. Like eight giant dudes with, we
Yeah,
put
yeah,
smiles
yeah.
on people's faces.
Rewind, recap, relive. Woo! That's what the world is watching.